I want to talk about. I don't know if y'all saw. I'm gonna wait for more people to get on, but I posted a video recently about the Black experience. So I want to give people a second to join because we need to have a conversation about what it's like being Black in America. And some people gonna be mad. You know what I'm saying? Some people not gonna like the conversation. I posted the. I don't know if y'all saw the video of Michelle Obama. I mean, Kamala Harris. We're gonna get to Michelle Obama of Kamala Harris basically saying that she went to go shake that white man's hand, the senator's husband's hand. Thank y'all for the gifts. And the senator's husband didn't shake her hand back. He took his hand back. And so I posted that video on YouTube. And y'all, please go subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. Subscribe to the YouTube. The link is in the bio. But basically, that politician's husband didn't shake her hand back. Like he took his hand back after she went to shake his hand. And I was just saying, like, that's the Black experience in America. Like, this is what's weird. It's like Black people, you don't really know what to expect. Like, you don't know who's like overtly or covertly racist. You don't know. And again, she's the vice president. So on YouTube, not so much on TikTok, there was people spamming the comments in the short, basically saying that she was a whack vice president and she don't deserve no respect and blah blah blah. And I just feel like that's crazy. That's crazy. I feel like the fact that you don't have and to be honest, here's my thing. This is how I know that people don't have basic human decency, because basic human decency tells you that you need to, at least if somebody reaches out their hand to shake your hand, the very least you can do is reach your hand back out to shake somebody's hand. But it goes to show you how people view Black people in America. They don't view Black people as human. And so the people on YouTube, again, go subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not already. I'm also live on there. But it's like if people in America don't see Black people as human, so to be so outwardly disrespectful, and the fact that he felt so comfortable doing something like that, the fact that he felt so comfortable not shaking her hand and he did it publicly, and then his wife didn't say nothing, that in and of itself lets you know what people think about Black people in America. And this is when I say the Black experience or don't, and this is what I mean when I say people will say that Black people don't have it that bad in America. But it's like you watch somebody like the vice president, who should, like, that's one of the most important people, arguably, right? According to this country, is like they put the president and the vice president on such a pedestal. What would make somebody feel that comfortable with disrespecting a vice president on national television at that? You didn't even care that you was on TV. That's how serious. That's how serious. Oh, what up, Pablo? That's how serious it is. It's like they don't even care that they're on national television. And I'm gonna do you one better, because I was thinking about this the other day, and I feel like the reason that Michelle Obama got so much respect was because she wasn't in a like exact position of power. Now, don't get me wrong, she deserves every bit of respect that she got. But I believe that if she was in a place of power, that a position of power like vice president, they wouldn't have loved her like that. I believe that they, especially women, like they don't believe that women should be in positions of power. So to them, it's like even her as the vice president, who was also one of the candidates for presidency, still don't get enough respect. And people will tell you that that experience. I don't know who that is, but hey, the people will still tell you that Black people don't have a difficult experience in America. And to me, that's so weird. That's weird. There's no way you could tell me that you would see something like that and think that the experience of Black people is not difficult or whatever in America. So I just personally feel like, I don't know. The people on YouTube, I didn't check the comments on TikTok, but Thank you. I love the sweatshirt. I didn't check the comments on TikTok to see, but they my friends, you give power by them. So I know that y'all gonna come in alive and be upset. It is what it is. And I do personally think, and I said this already, I do think it's strange when people don't have black friends. I That's just my experience. And to be honest, things like this make me feel like it's weird when black people don't have black friends. Because where do you go as your safe space? If you don't have I question that, and again, I can't understand or comprehend why nobody that looks like you don't like you. At a point, you really got to step back and understand or think that you might be the problem. Like, no shade, I'm not even trying to be funny, but the problem might just be you. And that's okay. That's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but to get on here and say weird stuff like that, we're having a serious conversation is strange, but all I want to, I don't remember, Mercy. What up, Jasmine? Of course, I remember you. But anyway, they also, so back to this whole Kamala Harris thing. I personally feel like these frames are from Gucci. I feel like the fact that he was allowed to do that so publicly sets a precedence for how they feel. But I also feel like it's this is why she was not able to become president, because it doesn't matter how qualified she was, it doesn't matter how much she brought to the table. People inherently think less of black people. And that's the black experience in America. And like I was saying, thank you for the gifts. Like I was saying in the video, is like you really don't know what to expect from people. So imagine having the constant anxiety of interacting with people and not knowing how they're going to respond to you. Like imagine having thank you. Imagine having to talk to people and get in spaces where you're not sure if someone's going to do something as simple as shake your hand. Like it was that simple. He didn't have to do nothing. All he had to do was shake her hand. He wouldn't do something as simple. Do you know what kind of anxiety that provokes? I really don't think people understand. Like it being black is is not an easy plight. And I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, black people don't have it bad, but it's like, yo, facts. And that's what I said too. Is like, imagine what they would say about you when you weren't around. If somebody felt emboldened enough to do that in your face, to interact with you like that in your face, imagine what they would feel comfortable doing when you weren't around. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, what's crazy about being black in America and when things like that happen, we're still expected to smile. I don't know if y'all saw Vice President Madam Kamala Harris like in that instance, but she still smiled and was and like though she had this awkward reaction. And the thing is, what does she owe any of us? She don't owe any of us nothing because she already didn't win the presidency. So, but the fact that she still has to show up as poised even when people put you in a situation where it's absolutely fair for you to respond in a way that is like a good reaction to the moment, she still was expected to smile. She still smiled, put on her best like smile, and continued on with with what was happening. But it's like, why should black people have to do that? Why should we be put in situations where we are in like we're made to be uncomfortable and we still have to smile and persist and grit? Like, I don't understand that. And then people are going to say that it's like America is a place where black people should feel comfortable. There's no difference with black people. And when you think about the current like upcoming presidency and like what's to come in terms of president elect and his people, the reason they're trying to get rid of all these DEI initiatives is for that reason exactly. Because they don't want black people to feel like there's a space for us to say that we are not valued as people. They don't want to create spaces where these conversations continue to happen. And I personally feel like President elect Trump has gotten rid of a lot of these initiatives because he felt disrespected that he had to run against a woman, a black woman. That's just my personal opinion. I truly feel like I feel like he and his cabinet are all trying to basically start all of these, get rid of all these initiatives. I think what we can do as a community is give each other grace. Like, I feel like when I remember when the presidential election was happening with Vice President Kamala Harris, where she was running for president, and I feel like as black people, we didn't give her any grace. I feel like a lot of black people had ridiculous expectations of her and held her to a higher standard than they held her white counterpart. And I felt like black people were hypercritical of her, which allowed for other people to create spaces where they could be hypercritical of her in a negative way. And this is what I mean when I say that we can't be inviting everybody to the cookout. This is what I'm talking about when I say don't invite everybody to the cookout. Because what happens is y'all make people feel comfortable with doing certain things or with operating. And I'm not saying as black people we shouldn't critique one another, because I think it's important that as black people we also are critiquing each other. But at the same time, I also feel like we invite other people in ways that are wrong, and to engage in hypercritical, like judgment of black people in ways that are not right. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like that was always the case. I felt like black people will allow certain people in spaces or have certain conversations openly, and then they don't understand the impacts of what that does for our community. And so I feel like we as a people should be more supportive and should talk more about it. And I also understand, though, I'm not dumb. So I understand the context of like people, it's hard to speak up in spaces when you're a marginalized person. So like while I will say, yeah, everyone should speak up more, it's easier to say that we should speak up more, but being silent and allowing somebody to stand out there on their own is also a detriment to our community. So it's like, do your job and leave. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like do your job and leave is cool too, but I feel like at the same time, that's such a like dumbed down way of doing it. I feel like even as black people, we say we're not engaging, and I'm not saying that we should engage in any political discourse, because I agree that we should take a break. But I even think as far as like as black people, when we say we're not engaging in any more political discourse, that we're doing ourselves a disservice. And the thing is, as black people, I know that we don't, thank you. I know that we don't necessarily mean that we're not going to engage in political discourse anymore or in have any interaction with politics. But I also think that sometimes what people don't understand is that other people perceive that as we're going to sit down and be quiet. And this is again what I mean when I say other people are watching. Other people perceive that to mean that we are not going to engage in any sort of political action and that they can take advantage of us. And so I really think also as black people, we have to be mindful of what we say. And that's just the reality of it. That's the reality. And I get that we're tired and it's a lot of work and we shouldn't have to do all this work. But at the same time, we also have to remember that if not us, then who? If we as a people don't do it, then who? Because it's not like there's somebody out here that's going to do it for us. And yes, I understand that we weren't the ones that made the mistakes. We didn't vote that man into office, but we also still have to live through his next presidency. And so we need to be mindful of that. And I do think that it's so hard. And I think, yes, and I think that mental health is very important. So like also I don't think people need to be putting their mental health on the line to to engage in politics. If you feel like your mental health is in question, then you should not feel like you need to engage in politics. But I also think that we as black people can't completely tap out of the conversation, even though it feels easy to do. And see, the thing is that I wish that we as black people, and this is not saying that we can't get there, but if we committed ourselves to creating spaces like Black Wall Street, and I'm writing a book right now, so and starting a podcast, so more to come on that. Y'all need to tune in. That's also why y'all need to subscribe to the YouTube, because a lot of y'all been asking me for a podcast, and I'm starting the podcast now. But one of the things that I talk about on the podcast is like how as black people we can create wealth within our own community. So a lot of times what happens is black people subscribe to this like crabs in a barrel mentality, because there's this idea that there's not enough space for all of us to exist, especially in leadership spaces. And so what we do is, instead of pulling people up as we climb, we do the opposite. We start to press people down as black people because we don't think there's enough room for us, when in fact we could create more spaces for Black people, for us, by us, that support us, that literally pull us up. That is how Black Wall Street was started. It wasn't started by gatekeeping from our own people. Now, again, all skin folk and kinfolk, and we also need to keep that in mind. But at the same time, trying to gatekeep from our own people is not doing ourselves any justice. Like, we have to be able to tap into each other, and to create something like Black Wall Street, Black people have to be able to come together. And I do believe that we can do that. But I also understand the context of the world that we live in, right? So I could say, oh yeah, Black people need to come together. We need to come together as a people. And then it's like there are so many factors, systemic factors, that play against us in a way that don't allow us to do that. But again, when we become divisive, when we start to create barriers, or like create barriers for one another, or we start to push our own people out, that's where you see that we don't. That's where you see, and also we can't subscribe to white people rhetoric. I don't know how to say that in a like more eloquent way, but it's like this idea that y'all believe, and I hear a lot of Black people say it, that people should just pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and that they should just do work or figure it out and get there. The thank you, I love you too. The actual like society is not built for Black people to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. And also, black people are Black people as a whole, we thrive in community. We don't thrive off of individualism. Community is how we were created. That's how we originally existed. And so when we say things like, oh, people just need to work harder or pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, we're recreating a cycle of whiteness. Like, I'm just saying, because there's also an assumption that people who are poor that are Black don't want more. And I don't know if y'all have met anybody who literally doesn't want more. I've never met anybody, Black, white, or indifferent, that doesn't want more. But when there's barriers in the way of us getting more, our response shouldn't be work harder. Our response should be, how do we help you to get there? If I got access to it, if I got it, if I got the secret sauce, if I got the recipe for success, then my job is, as a Black person, is to literally bridge that gap with you and for you, versus telling you that you need to do better, because telling you that you need to do better is not doing anything for Black people. And if you understand society at large, and if Black people were really tapped into what we've gone through and what society does to us, we would quit saying that, because we need to create more spaces where we create opportunities for Black people. And if you got some secret, or you know the secret to success, not sharing it with other people is not doing you any service. Like, I hate when people do that. I can't stand to see Black people thriving and they don't want to lift other Black people up with them. Thank you, I appreciate you. But it just is like, at some point, and that's the other thing. We gonna get to the Beyonce discussion. I really wish that that Black people created more spaces for Black people. But I also feel like we as Black people need to hold each other accountable. And I say this often, like, people of the same group need to hold each other accountable. So when white people ask what they can do to be a support to the Black community, when white people say that they want to be allies and ask how they can be an effective ally, it's like, you need to hold your group accountable. And we as Black people need to hold each other accountable as well, right? If you see Black people that are operating in problematic ass ways, we need to speak on that. When you see other Black people that are not upholding, or not bringing people up with them, or oppressing other Black people, we have to hold each other accountable. That's our job. And I really think that sometimes lack. And honestly, I'm gonna keep it a bean. And I hate to be the one to say this, because y'all always say that I pander to women, but I feel like specifically we as Black men don't hold each other accountable enough. So it's like, I know too many Black men who are friends with somebody who is not present in their child's life. I'm never going to be friends with nobody who's don't take care of their kid. And if you don't take care of your kid, I'm gonna hold you accountable as a person. I mean that white people need to hold other white people accountable. So if you, as a white person, see that other white people are doing something problematic, then you, as a it is your job as a white person to reach out to your fellow white person and say, hey, the thing you're doing is wrong. It's not up to Black people to teach white people what is right and what's wrong. That is a burden that you did. It literally goes against the like idea of oppression. If the person who's oppressed has to give you the answers to how to not oppress them, that doesn't make any sense, right? The person who created the oppression, the person who created those spaces, they have to be the ones to answer that question. And somebody just asked in the comment section, what about family members? How do we hold them accountable? um Everybody that's blood ain't family. If you don't take care of your kids, or you're not operating in spaces that I believe to be good and in good faith, I absolutely don't have to associate with myself with you, family or not. We should I believe that wholeheartedly. And if you're a principled person that really truly believes in what you're talking about or what you're involved in, then you wouldn't want to be around, you can't be around people who don't align with who you are. Like, I held this standard doing it in front of unlike other people. And to be honest, we're going to continue to be held to a different standard because we as black people don't have the same privilege, right? But I think two things can be true at once. So like I think that we sometimes are a little bit too aggressive with how we tell black people that we need to overcompensate. I don't think that we need to continue to tell black people to overcompensate because I think that's bad for our mental health. But I also believe that we need to show up as our best selves for ourselves. And also we need to be rooting for everybody black. Like, and I mean everybody black that is doing something positive to further the black community. I'm not saying that we should go outside and be like, everybody black is great. I think that when people are doing something positive to further the black community, that we need to support them. And even on this app, I've seen that. And even with this whole Beyonce conversation, let me tell you something. Beyonce is absolutely a capitalist. All of those billion, you can't be a billionaire and not be a capitalist. I also won't ever say that Beyonce has not done anything good for our community. I just can't say that because she has set a lot of precedents. She's opened doors for black people to get in spaces that we might not have been in. And so I can't sit here and say that she has done nothing for the black community. Like it is inherent. Like, and I'm not saying that people can't critique Beyonce because no one is above reproach. I said this the other day on my live. As a content creator, I'm on a platform. It is you all's job to judge me and critique me. And sometimes I'm not going to say what's right, but it doesn't take away from the fact that she does good work. Like you can't negate that. And the thing is like you're upset with her because of how she shows up in spaces and because she's on a platform. Now, let's say Beyonce didn't have that platform. Let's say Beyonce was not in that space. Do you think black people that this would have opened doors for black people in the same way? I'm talking black people in country music. I'm talking black people in hip hop. I'm talking black people in R&B. I'm talking black people in pop. I would argue that many of your favorite artists that are black that are in these spaces are in these spaces because she opened up doors for them. And I've also seen her do amazing things for other black people. And there's black artists who have like attested to that. So to sit back and say that Beyonce is not like Beyonce is completely bad in that she's a capitalist, all of your favorite artists are capitalists. Thank you for the compliment on the cut. All your favorite art. I want you to be clear. I want y'all to understand me clearly. All of your favorite artists are capitalists. All of those millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires, whatever they are, they're all capitalists. We're all, in some way, we all participate in capitalism. Do you understand that? Of course, there are people who participate, black folks who participate in capitalism at a larger scale because they have a larger platform. But we live in a capitalist society. Like this is America's built on capitalism. So what would you like for her to do? Like I just think sometimes again the way we hold black people to a certain standard, and I'm not saying that Beyonce is the best person in the world. I'm saying I don't remember, y'all. I got to find out. But what I'm also saying is I think that we don't have the same energy for all the other artists that are millionaires that are also participating in capitalism, taking money, performing at the Super Bowl. Rihanna has performed at the Super Bowl. Why nobody calling her cap? Why is nobody? Rihanna has done equally as amount of capitalistic things as Beyonce. Why is it that no one ever holds Rihanna to the same standard? Why? What makes them different? And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I think Kanye West has to be the face of black capitalism. He is. And so I think for me, it's like, while I also understand, and people are allowed to say what they want to say, I'm never going to tell nobody, oh, you shouldn't call out black capitalism or you shouldn't call out black people because they're capitalists. You should absolutely critique black people. But I do think that what I think that's something that we need to consider is how are we holding them accountable and how are we holding them equally as accountable? Because I guarantee you, those white people are not pressing Taylor Swift about being a capitalist. They're not. I'm telling you right now. So while we having arguments and discourse about Beyonce being a capitalist, y'all understand that there are white people who are literally giving their money to these other artists and creating spaces that don't allow for anybody who is not rich to thrive. That's all I'm saying. At the very least, Beyonce has created spaces for other black people to thrive. Now, does that mean that she's the best person in the world? No, honestly. And I listen, I have my thoughts on Jay-Z. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because last time y'all tried to fight me, but I'm not saying that she's a perfect person, and I'm not saying we should idolize her. And I think that's the other thing is we as black people go to different extremes. So everybody act like they gotta love or hate Beyonce, or they have to be a super stan, or you have to be a person that feels like she's no good. Some people can sit back and say, "Oh, I'm impressed with her music. I love her music," and I don't know that lady. I don't know her. I'm not swearing for Beyonce. I don't know her. But I think that and I think that that's the space that we as black people live in when we get to the extreme, the going to the extreme. It's like one extreme or the other. Like, oh, we have to exist in a space where we all either hold Beyonce to the highest standard in the world and treat her as a queen, or we have to hate her. Or we can think that she's a talented artist and we can accept the fact that we as black people don't all know her as a person, and so we need to be able to hold two things true at once and also be able to still call her out and critique her, sure, but be mindful of how you do it, because I think the problem with the Beyonce conversation became that a lot of people were spewing misinformation about Beyonce and the black experience. It became more about her performance and why she's performing at the NFL and the American flag than it was about whether or not people believe that she's a capitalist and she is promoting black patriotism. And the other thing is, a lot of people are speaking on Beyonce and her performance and her connection to the deep South without knowing the history of blackness in the South. And I'm not a person, I never will tell you that I'm pro American flag. I also think that the American flag represents negative things for black people. I understand that. But when you don't understand the context by which black people in the South have grown up and understand the world and experience the world, then you can't speak on that. So to judge her and to say that she grew up middle class and so that's why she has the success that she's gotten to is also it's a disservice, because it's also like you're suggesting that people who are born middle class or whatever it is shouldn't have success because they didn't work hard. Like this is the divisiveness in the black community that I think is a struggle. It's like we begin to say things that cause harm to the black community. Just because she grew up middle class doesn't mean that she doesn't have the same right to success or to be able to gloat about her success. She's worked damn hard for her success. And again, as black people, when we create these divisions, it's like, how do we expect other people to not step into our spaces and create division? How do we ever expect to create a space that's like Black Wall Street when we as black people are operating in silos and not succinctly? This is a large part of the problem. And so for me, it's like when I see things like on the YouTube channel, which by the way, if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go to the YouTube channel. I'm live on there as well. But this conversation about the problematic behavior in the video with Vice President Kamala Harris, where she went to shake that man's hand, and people on my YouTube channel felt so comfortable to start saying that she wasn't a good vice president and that she didn't do much for the country. What does that have to do with basic human decency? And again, how do we as Black people not create spaces where other people feel comfortable to talk like that about Black people? Because that's just inappropriate. But again, I'm I truly believe that the conversation starts with us, and we hold each other accountable, and we show up for each other, and we represent each other. And because I can tell you very candidly that there were so many Black people who were anti Kamala Harris because just simply because she was Black. They didn't have any good rationale. They couldn't speak highly of the other candidate. And I never said any candidate. If y'all follow me ever, I will never swear by any presidential candidate because I think politics are corrupt as a whole. But the fact that she was a Black woman, there were so many Black people who were out there literally discrediting her as though Donald Trump had something to offer them. And that spoke volumes. That speaks volumes because the fact that you were willing to get on a public platform and try to discredit her and try to say she wasn't Black and try it's these are the type of things that create that allow for the divisiveness or the division to come into the Black community. What powers is Vice? And that's the other thing. People will say that she didn't do anything for our country, but what's interesting to me and what I find odd is that they will talk about Kamala Harris like she was the president. Like people literally held her when she was running for the presidential seat. People were talking about Vice President Kamala Harris like she was the president. And to me, that was so strange. People were like, oh, she didn't do anything for our country. First of all, Joe Biden didn't even give her space to do anything. He literally, up until the point where he couldn't think, this man was incapacitated at damn near, and he did not even give her the space to do anything. What is it that people would have liked for her to do? And my question always comes back to why did you not hold the actual president to the same standard? Why were we talking about all the things that we believe that Kamala Harris didn't accomplish as vice president? But we're not talking about what the actual president wasn't doing. I've seen more Black people defending Joe Biden than I've seen Kamala Harris. And Joe Biden literally has not done anything for us but make a bunch of false promises. And again, do I think he's better than Trump? Yes, the better of two evils. But for people to be holding Kamala Harris to this high standard and this high regard, but won't hold the white people to the high regard, it's crazy to me. Because if Kamala Harris blinked wrong, everybody was like, she's not fit to be president. She's not fit to be president. Donald Trump walked around this entire election being completely problematic. He is a convicted felon, many convictions, and people still found more problems with with the presidential candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris. What does that say to you? Y'all can't sit that people can't sit here and tell me when people started saying she laughed too much, that's when I knew that this was unserious. She wasn't given a fair shot. People were complaining about her laugh. Donald Trump was saying anything about her and people were agreeing with it. That's when I knew that the game was rigged. It didn't matter and she went into overdrive. Whether or not you agree with her politics and you were a fan or whatever it is, she was not put in the seat to run to be the next presidential candidate for that Democratic nominee seat until the like final hours of the presidential election. And she still achieved more in that little bit of time. Hey friend, more in that little bit of time than Donald Trump did in his whole presidential election. And he lied to y'all. He lied to y'all. They stood in front of him and asked him if he was going to get the price of eggs down. And he said, that's really hard to accomplish. Now, if Kamala Harris was sitting in that seat and she was the president at the time, or she was running and she if she sat in that seat and won the presidency, and they asked her how she was going to make the economy better, and she said, I don't know, that's really hard. They would have ate her alive and called her a liar. They would have ate her up. But that's the privileges of being white, more specifically a white man. But y'all don't want to talk about it. Y'all don't want to talk about it. We're not honest. We don't want to have honest conversation. And this is the problem. And then people are going to say things like, "Oh, Black people have opportunity in America. Look at Obama." Again, the one black person effect, where you believe that if one black person made it, that everybody can make it, and all, like, it just was. It is mind boggling to me that we have gotten to a point where this is the type of rhetoric that we spew, and this is how we see, and we as fellow black people, especially when I see other black people doing it to black people, it makes my stomach turn. These are things you expect from white people. So the video of President Kamala Harris being disrespected by that white man, I expect that. And the point of the video that I made, though it may have been misinterpreted, and the white people on YouTube shorts are now upset with me, but the point of it was, you really never know how a white person is going to react to you. You really don't. And so we as black people, and imagine, I'm gonna give y'all or like an example or an analogy. Imagine walking into a room full of people you do not know. You don't know not one person in the room. And you're not sure when you walk into that room if people are going to greet you with hugs and be sincere and kind to you, or if they're going to throw eggs at your face when you walk through the door. And that's every time. As a black person, when you step into a space, imagine not knowing if you're going to be greeted with welcome arms or if people are going to throw stones at you. That is the experience. That's the experience when you go into spaces that are predominantly occupied by white folks, or that are maintained, or the dominant group in the room are white folks. That is the level of anxiousness or anxiety that black people experience going into certain spaces. So it's like, I wish that people could understand that she literally went in for a handshake, and this man looked at her and didn't shake her hand on national television. Imagine somebody feeling that comfortable. What like it And that's the black experience in America. And that's the point. Like, that's the black experience in America. And I think people lose sight of that. And people also want to downplay what black people go through in America. And it is a shame. It's sad. It's disgusting. It's deplorable. It's deplorable. He didn't look at her at all. He wouldn't look at her. He wouldn't shake her hand. He literally like looked away and then acted like nothing happened. And because she's black, she's expected to still stay poised and to smile, even though I know deep down inside she wanted to do something that probably was illegal. And that's what's crazy. And but this is the that's the problem with blackness in America, is like, if we don't take the disrespect, we're perceived as angry, as dangerous, as not like, or not good people. Like, people create narratives about us when we don't when we don't interact with the world the way that people see fit. And that's the problem. Because, and if it was me, I might have said something. I'm not gonna lie. If it was me and I reached out to shake somebody's hand and they didn't shake my hand back, now I'm also speaking as someone who is not the vice president. But if it was me and I put my hand out for a handshake and you didn't shake my hand back, okay, it's on. I would have to say something. Now, again, of course, I'm not the vice president, but it's up and it's stuck. And this is why I don't like being in certain spaces where black people are not like predominant, or there's no other black people in spaces, because we get put in situations where we're made to seem as though we're not good people or whatever it is, and we don't have other people around us. And so you walk into that space, you reach out to shake somebody's hand, they don't reach back out to shake your hand. What do you expect me to do? Now I'm supposed to just smile? I can't do. This is also why I couldn't be the president, the vice president, none of that, because there's a certain level of diplomacy that you have to have. If you're a black person and you want to be in politics, there's a level of diplomacy that you have to have. You have to show up in a way that's diplomatic. You have to have patience. You have to have decorum. You have to be able to smile in instances where you feel disrespected. And me personally, as somebody black, okay. I'm telling you. Oh, my sister's here. What up, Keisha? As somebody black, I can't handle that. If I reach out to shake your hand and you don't shake my hand back, it's up and it's stuck. Like, and I have to say something, national TV or not, it's up and it's stuck, and it's a damn shame, because that is how they want black people to feel, especially black women. They want black women to stay in their place, and I believe that that's exactly what he was doing when he got his ass up there and didn't shake her hand. He wanted to remind her of what her place is in the world and tell her that she needed to stay in her place. That is the vibe that I get from a lot of these white folks in these white spaces, especially politicians. They don't want black people to feel empowered and emboldened, and they do things that are either micro or macroaggressions to try to keep black people humble and keep and put black people in their place. And the thing is you have two options. As a black person, I got two options. One option is I either play the role, put on my best face, and decide to push through and muster through and be resilient, or I tell you about yourself. And it doesn't matter how eloquently Madam Vice President Kamala Harris would have said to him, what you just did is very disrespectful. And I feel like that is one of the most degrading things that you could do to a human. It doesn't matter if she said that way. They would have created her or made her seem like a monster. She could have said it in the most eloquent way. She could have said it in the nicest way possible. Like, hey, I really felt disrespected when I reached out for a handshake and you didn't reach for one back. They would have said she was aggressive. They would have said she was too powerful. They would have said that she was doing too much. There's no way to win. So for me, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm just choosing violence. I'm gonna just be honest. I don't know. I'm going to address it. I'm gonna address it, and if people don't like it, they don't like it. But I feel like black people get put in these situations, and we're expected to show up as our best selves, and that's it. I'm sorry. And somebody on a TikTok live was saying that you choose violence or whatever all 2025. And I'm with that. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'll be on that type of time. And just before y'all misquote me, because y'all love to do that on here, I'm not saying physical violence. What I'm saying is that we reciprocate energy. So I just want to be clear before somebody misquotes me and takes the clip and runs. But what I'm saying is we reciprocate energy. So if you try to publicly embarrass me on national television or anywhere, if we're anywhere and you decide you're going to publicly embarrass me as a black person and try to put me in my place, I'm going to match that energy and we're both going to be embarrassed. We're both going to be embarrassed. And I don't care what you got to say about it. Call me angry. Listen, any black person who's worked or has occupied spaces where it is not majority black, or even it is sometimes majority black, at some point somebody has painted us out to be aggressive. It doesn't matter how, as a black man, I feel like in the workspace specifically, I have to be extremely mindful of how I say things and how I address things, especially when I don't agree with something. I have to tiptoe around it and make sure that people receive it in a way that's digestible for them. And they're still going to tell me I'm aggressive because I said something. They're still going to paint you as aggressive because you said something. So for me, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to just say it, because if I don't say something, you're going to think it's okay. And you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's like you kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So every time I'm gonna do it every single time. I'm taking it there every time. But yeah, it really is. It speaks volumes to the black experience in America. It shows you how people actually view black people in America and what they believe about us. And also, I personally think that I think that white people don't feel comfortable having these conversations. And again, I'm gonna say this time and time again, but I've seen white people, and even in this live, white people asking questions, and it's like, you as white people don't need to ask black people how to resolve issues like this. You as black people, as white people, need to hold other white people accountable. That's how you become an ally. That's how you support, not by asking black people how to fix it, because you're asking the oppressed to fix oppression. Asking the oppressed to fix oppression is a contradiction. If we really want to make strides and move things forward, then white folks need to call out white folks. And I believe the same for black people. Black people need to call out black people. When we see problematic behavior in our community, when we see black people who are doing things that we believe and know to be problematic, we need to hold each other accountable. That's what it is. Thank you. I love you too. But yeah, it pissed me off. And when I saw the comments underneath the YouTube short video that I posted of people saying she wasn't a good president and black people are sensitive, that's another thing. I don't Let's just quickly touch on this angry black people issue. I'm so tired of people calling black people angry, Because in 99.9% of the situations where Black people are being called angry Black people, I want us all to understand that Black people have every reason to be angry. So that's the other thing. I'm not going to apologize for you perceiving me as angry when you put me in a situation where I have every right to be angry. And I feel like people have weaponized that terminology. Oh, they're just an angry Black person, or I don't want to be the angry Black person. I'm gonna be whatever it is you want. I'm gonna be whatever is given in the space. You know what I'm saying? If I'm in a space and I feel like as a Black person, you're putting me in a situation where I feel uncomfortable, I have every right to be the angry Black person, and I'm gonna be just that. I'm going to be just that. What are you talking about? I'm being microaggressed every day. I'm being disrespected every day. You're talking crazy to me, and you expect me to show up positively in good spirits? I have the right to be an angry Black person. And yes, they're going to try to use that again, weaponize the angry Black person against us. But at the end of the day, I personally feel like we have every right to be angry. And until you stop putting me in a situation where I don't feel like I need to be the angry Black person, then I'm going to give you what you're asking for. And before y'all take it too far, I'm not saying go lose your jobs. Because some of y'all be taking the stuff I say too literally. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about on YouTube because only a few of y'all here. I'm talking about all y'all on the TikTok joint. I'm not saying walk up in there and be like, F all of this, we out of here. Da, 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 da. I'm not saying that because I don't want nobody to lose their job and be like, Dwight, we lost our job. What you finna? I don't have no money. Y'all raggedy nephew be costing me an arm and a leg. But what I am saying is you don't need to change you because people are making you feel bad about your response. And you don't need to feel bad about being angry in spaces where people make you angry. Normalize Black people having feelings too. Black people are not animals. We are not workhorses. We are humans. We have feelings too. And the problem is that people often want us to hide our feelings because they believe that Black people can handle anything. And don't get me started on how people believe that specifically about dark-skinned Black people, especially dark-skinned Black women. People people truly believe that Black people and dark-skinned Black people can withstand or take on any sort of violence towards them, and so they treat us as such. So it's just like it's really crazy. Oh, y'all raggedy nephew came in. Sorry, but yeah, nah. And I'm also again, I'm not telling y'all to go to lose y'all job. So please don't go up in there running your mouth. Y'all raggedy nephew wants to say hi.
Hi guys.
That's
I
everyone.
got I got something to drink. I got me something to drink, Kyra something to drink.
That's good. And that's nice. I love that. Yep. He got everyone something to
I
drink.
was in the gym. I was frying this nigga.
Okay,
He
we're
said
on live.
he said pay me for 400. I think I afforded to lose. He said how much you put to us at $10.50. Nigga, that's not money.
Betting our hard-earned money is kind of chaotic. I'm not gonna lie.
He would have lost. He was like 411.
Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. This is what I do every day. He's talking about he's frying people. He just finished playing basketball. No, I was annoyed because I don't know if y'all heard, but he decided to spend my money to buy everybody something to drink. I saw the credit card get swiped. And so, it is what it is. Yeah, he did. He won, but he didn't take the bet. So somebody was betting him money. He won, but didn't come back with the money. So that to me is weird. Like, no. The swoop is gonna go away. Not too much on the swoop, but yeah. Um, Yeah, but anyway, also y'all need to subscribe to the YouTube channel because this is where the podcast is going to be posted. So if y'all was on my live last time, y'all remember I started talking to it. So I'm gonna give y'all a little preview to what's to come. So each week I'm going to be doing a episode, and my goal is to be talking about black pop culture. So things that are going on in the world of black pop culture. But on the other side of that, we're going to talk about black leadership and black professionalism, what that means and how we exist in spaces. And I'll be interviewing people who are black leaders and also people who are aspiring black leaders that I know or that come from. I'm not going to tell y'all the name of it yet because I'm going to do a whole rollout, but y'all should anticipate that and also something that you all should know is that y'all ask me when I start doing the podcast to do it live. We are gonna record live, and I'm also gonna be taking questions from the audience. So I'm gonna be asking y'all to when y'all tune in. like what your thoughts are on certain issues that are coming up or things that we talk about in Black pop culture. We're also going to open up the floor for advice. So myself and the person who's being interviewed will both open up the floor to give advice to people on anything that y'all feel like y'all need advice on that is specific to Black people. And then the second half of it is going to specifically be about Black people in the professional world. And we're also going to take questions, but I'm going to have the person who's being interviewed answer questions for y'all and talk about y'all experience. And the hope is that we can create spaces for Black people to grow in their leadership and to spread the wealth. So again, talking about not gatekeeping like Black success and how we got to where we're at and how we sit in the seats we're in, being able to share that wealth of knowledge of how we as Black people have gotten to where we are and what were some of the obstacles. And also, I want to create spaces for Black people who are upcoming leaders to be able to anticipate a lot of what current Black leaders didn't anticipate. Right? There's certain things that we experience that I believe that people should know as they're stepping into leadership to prepare themselves better. This is also going to go in hand with the book that I'm writing. There's a bunch of things coming down the pipe. So y'all stay tuned, but y'all need to subscribe to the YouTube because that's where it's going to be because TikTok is not the platform for that. But yeah, please lock in, subscribe, all of that, and more to come. But yeah, it was just a quick live. Yeah. We're writing a book. We're writing a book. So stay tuned. Anyway, love y'all. I'm about to get off the live and peace out.